Let's see if you guys can hear me. Do a quick little mic check here. All right, let me know if you guys can. I can hear on my end. Let's see if you guys can hear me. Make sure it's all good. It's actually funny. I was moving some things around, and I had the YouTube window and the Twitch window on opposite sides. So I'm like, wait, why is it? All right, what about now? Hello? You may have heard of it. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, you may have heard an echo because I was trying to listen to the sound myself, so you heard me listening to myself on there. But if it's working now, good, we're fine. All right, wonderful. So lots of stuff has happened since the market closed today. Some interesting things. Although I don't know. I'm gonna say it's interesting, and I guess it's the first official kind of shot across the bow, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, so let me blink this out of the way. We will start over where we normally start. We will start over with Forex Factory, kind of discuss what happened today. So for any of you guys that were on this morning, this ISM non-manufacturing data was something that I was talking about this morning that obviously, anything with manufacturing, the word is important because it kind of talks about what's going forward, but then also PMI was pretty important. And I said, again, if market is, trailing up at all today and this was a bad number, it was tanking. And if this was a bad number, probably wasn't going to be a good day. And again, we just watched this, basically the market has just collapsed through the floor today. And again, even things like the euro dollar, you can see that this one had a huge day up, right? A lot of dollar weakness. Everything else was more or less kind of, there, more or less equal. Again, dollar Swiss, you can see that go down, but obviously everybody knows why. Most of that is in the last, 60 minutes to an hour, obviously proportional wise. As of 2-3 hours ago, that's kind of where all the fireworks started. So, and again, Aussie dollar, and again, Aussie has some numbers later today. You guys can see earlier, New Zealand dollar, that popped a bit earlier. Nice little spike up. I'll show those on the charts as well. So for those of you that aren't sure what I'm talking about, this is kind of what we're talking about right here. Again, they're already starting to forecast it, and it's interesting. This guy, Daniel, he's a pretty good analyst. He talks about basically this thing right here, right here. Okay, we talk about that the United States Treasury Department labeled China as a currency manipulator, like officially did. Not just like the comments and yeah, they are. It's the official stance that, yes, they are currency manipulators. Now, people have said it, like the last administration, they mentioned it, but they never really came out officially and just kind of smacked him in the face with the manipulator kind of, thing. In essence, understand this, though, all currencies are technically manipulated. It's just to what extent that they are. China's been a kind of an interesting situation because they're obviously a big country economy, but they are playing by little country rules. And again, having their things pegged, they've obviously been a currency manipulator for a long time. And again, it's kind of that third world kind of classification where they used to be, but they, obviously their economy is too big. So the fact that they came out and legally kind of slapped them with it, this is kind of a big deal now. So again, I think we're waiting. This was like 2-3 hours ago. I have not seen it yet. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to see how they retaliate back. I wouldn't be surprised if they labeled us as manipulators as well, but that's kind of hard in this position that we're at. Again, obviously the central banks can move it up and down, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I'm actually surprised that gold isn't moving much, going crazy. Not surprised that Bitcoin jumped, we joke around about this one. I'm not surprised that this guy, jumped the way that it did, just with everything because everyone's like, oh, it's Bitcoin, safety. It's like, no, it's not safety, but good luck. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And again, yeah. Another thing I like about this guy too is you guys check this out. Here is his S&P chart, and you guys see what he draws. You guys notice where he's drawing things, right? You guys see these things? He's drawing his zones off supply and demand areas. So it's pretty interesting. Now again, he's throwing trend lines in there as well, and kind of getting a little funky with some things, trying to show them, some patterns. But he's basically drawing things off of supply and demand zones. Okay. Yeah, thought that was pretty interesting when I saw that one. So, again, you guys can see I don't have a chart up for S&P right now, but yeah, interesting take on the whole thing. All right, so let's jump across. Yeah, we're just going to start from the top. All right. So one of the things that I talked about earlier this morning as well is you guys see this red line. And again, price kind of came down and then kind of popped back up. And again, the last 8 hours, it bounced. Well, this red line was drawn off the bottom of this wick. Okay. And I mentioned, look out for bear traps here. Okay. Why bear traps? Because again, whenever anybody sees a lower or high or any type of pivot like that, the first thing they're thinking is, oh, support and resistance. You have the old school guys. They're like, yep, support and resistance. That's all you need. And again, what happens is it came down, and here's, you guys can see the red line. Here's the bottom of that wick. What did it do? It went below it and immediately shot right back up again, right on this 4 hour. Again, we called it right to the, said as soon as it breaks, watch it pop up again. And it did. It hit, immediately popped, retested it, and then went higher and pushed right back up into this basing level. And again, understand, this is people understanding what others are looking at, right? It's always important. Again, you guys don't see a lot of indicators in my charts. I use very, very few of them. Sometimes I'll throw them up there, but I throw them up in the context that I am actually trying to figure out what other people are thinking. Because if I can figure out what they're doing or what they're thinking, I can position myself to do the opposite of it. And think about it. A big bank or institution or somebody like that, what do you think they want to do? Do you think that they want to try to out manage or outmaneuver somebody? No. But if they can figure out what the masses are going to do, it's easy for them to position themselves to take advantage of it. Because again, at the end of the day, remember, if you want to buy something, what does somebody else have to do? They have to be willing to sell it to you. Okay. I put something on Instagram. If you guys are not following the Instagram page today, I talked about why is it that prices always fall into buying selling zones right before news. Okay. It's very simple. Everybody wants something on sale. I mean, who likes paying over, something that's overpriced? Nobody, right? But you like it on sale. So you'll see prices move down in these areas, and the big banks and institutions get into these things early. And then what do the retail traders do? They wait till the news, and then they try to react to it after the fact. But typically their reaction is giving the big money what they wanted in the first place. Okay, that's why the things move ahead of time. All right. So in this case, right now where we are, okay, we are in a little, like I said, we are in that bear trap. Price is pulling back up. Even on the 4 hour, that we've kind of pulled back into this kind of basing level. I mean, it's nothing super strong here. Nothing that I'd be like, oh, that's great. I can't wait to trade this one. And again, there's a lot of Aussie news getting ready to come out. Not like this moment, like you guys can see right here. Tonight is basically all New Zealand, but tomorrow, again, early morning is this cash rate. It's not expected to change, but there's already people starting to talk about it. So I think we will see some movement later on that one. But I think tomorrow, again, we go back down to this official rate cut. That'll be the big one. Like I said, New Zealand is definitely something that's moving lately. All right. So, yeah, this was a big miss. So that's kind of where we are right now. For me, I'm kind of in whoops, I didn't want to do that one. I'll delete that one. Sort of in a holding pattern for this one. Like I said, this is obviously a downtrend. I'm okay taking it short, but I need a pullback. I need some type of a green pullback here. This area that we're in right now, I know we're close to having it green. You'd be like, hey, well, won't this front run it? Yeah, but I don't really necessarily love it. I like this area a lot more up here. For me, I like this area better. Okay, this kind of wick over here. Again, it's right where this kind of basing level starts. These are descending candles coming down, and again, there's a little bit of play back and forth. But this was a nice push down, and that gave us the the red green red down push before retrace. So for me, I kind of like this area a little bit better right here as an area where I'd be willing to take a short. And that would definitely give us a green candle. And again, you can see the daily wick over wick here. It's the same. That's the kind of the bottom of this area. So the risk on it is rather small. Okay, you're talking about 17 pips on a 4 hour. Actually, I set it on a 2 hour right now. Let me set it on a 4 hour. Okay, you guys can still kind of see it, kind of the same area. Okay, I'll do this one. Again, same 17 pips right there. That's about 15 right there. But again, you can fine tune it on a lower timer frame if you really want. Okay, it's right about there. Right about there. 15 pips. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Because again, I will definitely have a green. I can drop down to the 6 times multiplier, grab this short, and bring it back down to at least the bottom. Typically, again, it will make a push down. So when it fills somewhere over in here, again, even down to this level right here, something along those lines, you're talking about what? 111 pips. So 15 risk for about 111 to the downside. Not a bad little trade setup. Okay, and again, 15 pips if it goes against you and decides that it's going to rally all the way back up, back into 74.50. Oh well, you lost 15 pips. Not the end of the world. Okay. Hopefully that's clear on that guy. Going into the Aussie New Zealand. Now this one obviously a little bit of a spike there. You know, why is there a bit of a spike there? And again, I have this on the 5-minute because news trading. But you guys can see, okay, again, this was the news. What did it do? Okay. It rallied up into a zone. Okay. The news came out at 6:45, so right in between these two candles. Let's see, we could probably, I'll drop it down to 15 minutes. Okay. Oops. Right there was the news. So what did it do? Before the news came out, because here, news came out at 6:45, but yet look at the news. And when did the news spike? It started going up, came back, pushed up at 7:30. Or I'm sorry, at 6:30, right? Came right up into the zone, hit, and all the way to the downside. So again, could have traded this on multiple different pairs. This is just another example of it. Again, total risk in this one was about, what? Looking about 13 pips, right? Now again, this one, it spiked down. I probably would have had an initial target over here at about 1030. This one actually went pretty far, but even just that 1030, let's see, 1030. Hold on, it's down over in here, I believe. Let's see. 04. 103004. Yeah, so right about here. I'll move this up. Most likely that's where I would have had my target. Okay, 13 for 63. Okay, again, it did go lower than that. Again, it did go all the way down and actually broke slightly below, which I'm okay with. But again, that's where you're going to expect a bit of a retrace. And again, it moved before the price or the news is actually released because people already know. Okay, the people in the know. Change that to red just to clean that one up a bit for you guys. You guys can see how I drew that one. Actually, there would have been the level. I probably would have taken that. That's about 12. Yeah, so 12 for 63. And again, that would have been based off of putting a line here. Actually, let me do this. This is what we've been marking. You can't even see that. There you go. So that would have been basically the target on that one. All right. Based off the start of this kind of big move here. All right. Where we are now, again, it's just retracing. It's kind of like pulling back. Nothing exciting. It almost got all the way back up to where kind of this kind of red, green, red occurred. At this point, I'd wait for things to kind of level out. I think some of the data later, the Aussie data later, will probably bounce this back around a bit. This zone could potentially be valid again if price kind of rallies back up again. It doesn't have, I mean, it's got a couple hours, so it does have the ability to kind of go higher. Let's see, indicators, ATR. You're looking at an average of about 8 pips every half hour. We're talking about having to go about 40 pips. It'll be close. It'll be close. I don't know that we'll quite get all the way back up to this zone, but we'll see kind of where it pops around. And again, like I said, you're in this kind of crazy wick right here to the downside, so not too much besides this kind of area that it did bounce off of. All right, going into Aussie dollar. Now again, remember they're talking about this piece right here, yen to rise as Aussie dollar sinks. Okay, so again, this is still continuing to pull down. Okay. In anything like this where we just keep collapsing lower and lower and lower, I love to have a pullback. Like I like the 4-hour, right? Look at the 4-hour. Down, back, down, back, down, back, down, back, down, back, down, back, down, and then it's kind of grind. Down, back, down, back, down, back. You guys see how this is great. This is healthy, right? This, not so much. Okay, it's just kind of going. It's funny. It kind of almost looks like a Hakanashi candle because it just all reds to the downside and there's no pullbacks, right? And then a lot of greens. So where we are now, let me shrink this. I'll make it taller. You guys can see a little bit more in here. So this is one of those areas. It's not a horrible little zone. Okay, the wick does kind of come down to the downside. It is descending, so it is kind of again, it is a retest off of this area as well as this area. So not the cleanest, but it did put in kind of a new little kind of failed high. So there is a little zone right there. And you'll see there's a couple of things here. Again, this is that same wick over wick, right, that we were talking about before. Actually, let me adjust the top of that. Right, go higher. Right there. So there is kind of a couple little, again, this wick over wick. This would be attempt number 3 in there. Again, this would be attempt number 3 as well if it breaks up into here. So it does have a little bit lower of a rating to the downside. It does coincide with, again, pulling back here. Now, if you look in the 4-hour, though, we are actually in an anchor break situation. The red candle was outside of the prior green. So, again, we were not in a sideways trend. We were right before that, but then, again, we kind of broke to the bottom side. So we are at an anchor break, which is signaling a long, okay? And we'll see, if it's going up to grab orders in this little 4-hour area. But, again, look for the news on this one. Probably, I don't love the bottom side of this, the way that this is forming with the 2 wicks. You guys see what it did? Right around here is where it turned. Let me see what we have right below that. Yeah, it's going way back there. I think I like the other 2 pairs better. Like I said, I would like to see a pullback on the daily. Again, you're getting them, but the zones that it's pulling from are not really the best looking zones here. Okay. I don't mind these 2 at the downside. Those are not bad. So for me, I'd probably trade the other 2 pairs. Euro pound. Let's see what we got. With all that basing on the 15-minute, how do you know where to get your zone? On the 15-minute? Oh, you're talking about this one? Okay. I'm looking for something that really stands out. Like I said, this little kind of peak at the top stands out, right? Because it kind of was slow pop, and then kind of started to push down, kind of at an accelerated pace, because we were slowing here. So here's just kind of one way you can do it, right? Put yourself right in the middle, right? And then take that line and move it and say, okay, do we have an acceleration? Yes, because if we didn't, it would be over here. But this one went straight down. So it was an acceleration point. That's why, I would end up using that one, if that makes sense, Josh. And again, what I'm doing too is I'm looking. Like, nothing in here tells me that it's going to drop. Okay, there is a drop, kind of sideways drop in here as well, but it's so close to this little top piece, and it's only 12. I mean, even if I just said I'm going to use this piece right here, you could say yes, there's a level here, but there's technically a level here right above it as well. So if in a level over level situation, I should be taking the top one. So could I have taken just the top section? Yeah, and had 6 pips risk, but I may not have gotten filled. It did spike right into there, so again, I could have played it by ear and said, yep, I'll take that 6 pips. But again, I decided to take the entire candle because, again, it was news time, so I was trying to give myself a little bit more leeway because of wider spreads. So that's the only difference, okay? Again, but the fastest thing is the acceleration through. Like, again, here's another way you can do this. So, like, you can draw through here and say, okay, that's not bad, right? And then you can say, okay, did it accelerate over here? Or is it the same? Right? Well, that's pretty much the same, right? And then you could say, this next peak, did it follow it? I mean, if I could bring it down here, sure, but it had to do some catching up, right? But even if I did like the peaks here to here, right? And then I can grab it and say, okay, there's the next peak. You can say it's basically the same acceleration. And then all of a sudden this, because there's the peak, and it went straight down. Okay, so faster acceleration. All right. All right, euro pound. All right, so good news with the euro pound. And again, this is kind of, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's been grinding up today. I'm not really necessarily kind of surprised at it. I don't think there's really any, there's not really, a little bit of PMI data, but again, that was good data. Not really much there. Again, not really. Again, this is all just, not really much there. This thing just kind of continued to grind a bit higher, okay? Good thing about it, though, and this is a great thing, we never got really an entry. We had this kind of little small thing that we could have taken potentially to the downside, and again, it hit our profit target. It hit exactly where our profit target 1 was, which was fine, right? Because we were looking for this to get to the start of the move. So it did, take late. It came over, and it took a while to get down there, but it hit, right? Then it just kind of faltered and kind of went back up again. Never really gave us another entry in there. But what we do know now is that first entry is done. Okay. It has gone all the way through that zone, so we could remove that zone. Okay. We can just take that right off and remove that from the equation. Okay. So now what we're doing is now we're starting to look for somewhat of a retracement. Again, I'd say first area was probably going to be the same thing, back into that level. Okay. And again, lines up to right where we saw, right? That was the last time we had any type of true sideways basing. It popped, retested, and then went all the way back up again. So we are in a good area. We are back at the top, and we're looking for some type of a confirmation that we could get short this thing. Again, nothing really exciting in here. I mean, a little bit of a pop here at 11 and kind of back down again. It's just been a rather slow grind. Nothing crazy. Okay, looking into tomorrow, again, nothing. Looking into the 7th, nothing really, right? Again, trade balance tentative. Yeah, we'll see what comes out of that one. Again, nothing here on the 8th. And again, on Friday, that's where all the pound data kicks in. So for me, I'm kind of watching this pair, but I'm more or less waiting till the end of the week to trade this one. I think most of the movement will come on Friday. So if we, again, meander kind of back and forth, we'll see if we can get some more pushes higher. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, we are definitely high on this curve. We are not quite, I don't think we're at all-time highs, but we're pretty close if we're not. Yeah, no, price has actually been to the upper side here. So not quite all-time highs. It didn't spend a lot of time up there. And again, I mean, I don't see anything in the European Union that's telling me that their economy is great. So again, looking for some type of a confirmation to the downside, see if you can grab something small. If we can get some basing, if we get some basing here and price pulls away, I'd be looking to take that short off the basing level. Okay, something small, maybe 10 pips risk, 8 pips risk to the downside is what I'd be looking to take. And again, nothing in this 30-minute is screaming to me that that's a great, great buying area, great target. Again, I'd probably focus in, and again, maybe I'd use this level right here instead of using the 91.16. Maybe I would use the 91.47. But again, a little bit of a gap in there. And again, if it comes back down again, I think that's, it's 124 pips to the downside. So not a bad little setup. Okay. Now, Euro yen. So, oops, I must have logged myself out. Let's see. Back in. Open platform. Euro yen. All right. So, Ernest brought this up a little while ago. He said, that one looks interesting. Go look at Euro yen. Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, it is a racetrack. You got a nice little turn. It was green on the daily, right? Then you drop it down to the 4 hour and you say, hey, wait a second. It's pulling back into area sellers. Like, this is a great trade. But you got to realize what it turned off of. Okay, if you look back on this daily chart, right? And again, if we go back, it's going back some time here, right? This is what we ran into. Hold on, I'm not sure why this is. Not sure why that one popped up. What do we run after? What do we know about gaps, guys? What do we know about gaps? Okay, the initiation of a gap area is typically what? Area buyers, area sellers, right? It's kind of a launching point. So in this case, again, if this was a pullback and there's not really any major supply or many major demand zones or anything, I'm cool. I love it. Downtrend. Obviously, we've been in downtrend for a while. Downtrend with the setup, it's green. Man, it was pulling back to a really, really nice area. I loved it, right? Problem is, it bounced off a daily gap zone, which again, we know are buying areas. So it did turn and did kind of bounce again. Not necessarily surprised. Okay. Another thing that I kind of didn't like about this one was the fact that we had this pullback right here. Okay. We got close. Okay. It gave us kind of a wick a little bit lower. It could be considered an even wick, so I didn't have any problems with it going through, right? But what did it do? It came down, it found buyers, and then launched itself higher. So it hit the area, it came down to get some buyers, and then launched, and there's a wick sitting here, okay? So the one thing to worry about is when you are trying to get in, what you don't want to happen is this. You don't want it to form a base right before the level, okay? And again, even on the 30-minute, you can see price came up, got close, came down to grab more orders in a demand zone, and then it launched, accelerated its way through the top. Okay, so not necessarily the best area. Now, if it does continue to push, I actually like this zone better. Okay, particularly if we don't really get much basing, or if we go green, the acceleration high would be an opportunity for me to turn and flip this down to the bottom. But going from just this area here down, okay, you're talking about. I mean, even if we take it conservatively, you're talking about 109. So, I mean, it's nothing to scoff at, but, at the same time, okay, your risk level on that one would be about 30. Okay, so it's just over a 3-to-1, but again, it bounced. Okay, so just a couple things that I'd be watching out for. Now, in this case, it's a similar setup. Again, a little bit farther of a pull. This one's about 28 pips risk. And again, this time you could probably potentially use the bottom, and you'd be looking at what, 171. So it's 28 for 171 to the downside. So I think that's probably a little bit better of a setup. If we don't get the trend reversal. But again, good risk to reward ratio in that one. Again, it's going to have to pull back at some point. That's most likely the area it's going to pull back in. And again, if it goes in at bases, like there's nothing here. Like if this starts to pull back in the next candle and then stop, yeah, that's a problem. But otherwise, we should be okay, I think, just by how fast this is launching up. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, that could be this is one of those Nadex tradable pairs. So this could be something to put on a binary somewhere down in this region. Because again, if we're talking about 170 pips, the ATR is obviously not 170, but with tomorrow's drama, who the heck knows, right? But if it can move 3, right, that's only 60 pips. Can it move 60? Sure. Can it move 80? Sure. That's 4 strike prices to the downside. That just gives you kind of an idea how you can play a little bit of these out of the money binaries a bit, okay? For a bit of a retrace. Let me change that to green just so it doesn't totally confuse everybody for later. All right. So we'll see. But again, the one thing that really hurts this trade is the fact that we did bounce off a daily gap and a pretty nice daily gap to the top side. All right. Going down to euro dollar. All right. So euro dollar, again, on the daily, big day. Like we know it was up 116 from where we were last night. Okay. Now, this one kind of went up. It based. It kind of went down a bit. You may have gotten faked out. You may have gotten stopped out. Again, that's going to happen, guys. If anybody tells you that they never get stopped out, then they're not telling you the truth. Okay, it happens. Now, this one is actually driven above this level of basing too. And I mentioned this morning, I don't love the basing here because this was formed on Friday afternoon and into Sunday. That's why the candles are small. So there wasn't really a whole lot of kind of movement in there. Okay, but I'll say when I say that, we are up inside this level, which gave us some really nice kind of downturns. Right, these levels were formed on Thursday. Okay, so in essence, this was still kind of talking about this basing level. And again, this was the old is new and all those things. This is where we are at now. Okay, kind of up in this range. And again, we know there's things above because we've hit that last time, but we're starting to get up into this kind of level of basing here, right? I like that a little bit better. All right. You guys can see where it is over here. So again, the time the level is formed does make a difference. Again, this is basing probably because there was absolutely just no traders left in the market. And again, that happens, right? And then again, all of a sudden Sunday kicks in and that's where we start to get movement again. So, a little bit of a false zone. Watch out for that sometimes. And again, this here was formed in a way similar where it's a lot of small candles. But again, this was Wednesday into Thursday, not a Sunday. And we've seen 1, 2, 3. So again, the next hit will be 4. But again, we did have some nice movement. So probably the zone right above this 125. What is it? 112.60 to 112.75. So that 15 pip zone right there is kind of what I'm looking for somewhat of a short in this pair. All right. And again, this is a very, very kind of steep. I mean, you guys see this, right? If we go here again, it did have one slow day, but look at the oops. Look at how kind of straight up that is. Okay, what happens when we did it right over here? You guys can see it started this kind of downtrend again. This one obviously didn't do it as fast. This one is as close as we can get as being straight up. It's pretty much there. Even this is not as strong. You guys can see, again, it had some basing in the middle. What does it do? It comes back down again. Now, this is probably the opposite of it, right? 4 candles across, retrace. So because we have this high angle of ascent right now, I'm definitely looking for short opportunities in this pair. Okay, going over to Euro Aussie. Now again, Euro Aussie will definitely be a tradable pair tonight. Interesting thing about Euro Aussie is we have this situation. Okay, we had this very, very tall wick. We got up to about the top 75% of it. And we're starting to see a turn to the downside. Now, again, we do have kind of impulse and corrective moves, impulse, correction, impulse, and correction. On the lower time frame, this one had the same situation. We kind of based and based and based and based, and then kind of went and just flatlined. Now, this was the end of last week, and I mentioned this before, going into Fridays, and then, obviously, this is kind of where it dies. again, if you get basing like this before the weekend, get out. Okay, just get out. Like here's where the market ended on Friday. Maybe you took a loss on it, but whenever you see, entering an area like this and then it just flatlines, this did it for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 hours. It just stayed in one little tiny area. Okay, if there's no movement like that, typically it's safe to get out. But worst case scenario, you took a little bit of a loss on that one. Not the end of the world. Where we are now, we have now kind of given us a trend reversal on this 30-minute chart. Okay. Now, obviously, we are way up here. Okay. Technically, this is sideways upward bias confirmed. Okay. Why? Well, this red is obviously engulfed, right? It's obviously inside the green, which means we are sideways, right? It is not outside of it. It was on a pullback again. There was an uptrend setup in this situation, and again, now it's off to the races. Okay. I'm definitely looking for a retrace. Now, lower time frame, we do have it. We do have a red. We do have a green. We do have another red. We have a level break here, a level break here, and we're at a third level break. So this one, actually, you could potentially be short in it, some type of a spread of some. Actually, I guess you're not doing a spread, but you could technically be short this pair right now. Let's see, how much risk would there have been had you taken this reversal? Yeah, about 45. Yeah, so too much to take on there. You'd have to drop it down. Oops, that's not what I want to do. You'd have to drop it to a lower time level to be able to take this confirmation. It did move a bit more than most people would want to trade in that. But we'll see to the downside how this is moving. With the Aussie news coming up again in 3 hours? Okay. In 3 hours, again, let's see where this thing sets up in 3 hours for somewhat of a retracement. But I do think, again, it's pulling higher. I think we will kind of get a flip to the downside. Again, if Aussie data is good, New Zealand data is good. If we can get some good Aussie data, again, this thing could really kind of get us some movement, potentially back down to the 161.90ish range, right? That'd be a nice little move back, back into here. 161.90. Yep, over in here. All right. Let's look at pound yen. So pound yen only had about 20 pip movement, right? We definitely had some movement here and then a bit of a retracement, all right? So looking at the chart, again, you guys can see, what did it do? It went sideways, it kind of came down, came back up, went sideways, dropped, and then came back up again. So again, it had some great momentum, right? We had this impulse of corrective move, very strong impulse. And again, it's kind of grinding down a little bit. Again, missed the entry on that one. And again, it's kind of there now, but really, it feels like it's lost a lot of momentum. We've lost a lot in this pair. I mean, we are all the way. Oh, that hurt. All the way down into here. And again, level of basing, a pop, a retest of the level, and then it catapulted. So that's where price is in this lower level, this 127.63 range. Right? I mean, we got as low as 127.80. So we got within like 20 pips of kind of being in that area. And again, we are in a downtrend setup. If we could find a nice zone to the downside, it wouldn't be a bad place to go in. What I don't like about it is in looking for explosive movement, we have a little bit right here. I mean, if I stretch it, you guys should be able to see it a little bit better, right? But this got real choppy. A little bit of a gap. It came back up and retested the gap for the short. So had you been watching this, again, on Friday, you probably wouldn't have taken it because it was Friday to Sunday. But again, Sunday night gap, you guys know how to trade these, right? Here was the gap where it closed on Friday. What did it do? It came back up, it retested it, and that was its short. Okay. Since that time, it's only rallied about halfway back. It kind of ground down, and now we're at the same area. So this is not explosive enough for me to be willing to take a short right now in this retracement. Even this is not really even the best kind of movement off of it. I do like this fact here, but again, we kind of had this down, up, and then down movement. So, there's a potential short in here from, 129.54 to 129.74, about a 20 pip zone in there. If this manages to kind of, push up and hit that area, I'd be looking to take this probably back down into like that area, right in there. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. Again, don't necessarily love this one. I feel like it's starting to run out of momentum to the downside, but again, we'll continue to see how this one plays out. Again, this is yen strength and pound weakness, so it's something we've seen on multiple pairs at this point. Looking into pound dollar. All right. Pound dollar, somewhat of a similar situation. I mentioned this morning. This one is sucked down into this bottom blue area, kind of the lower end of the curve. And like I said, on Friday, or actually last Wednesday, it did pop. And then since that time, it's just kind of been stuck here, right? You guys can see very low movement today. This pair is down 17 pips from last night. And if you look at it right here on the 30-minute, it's just literally right back and forth. Not doing a whole lot. So again, not really a trending pair for me right now. It is considered technically in a downtrend setup, but a downtrend setup into an area buyer is not really interested. It's not showing me it wants to go up, and it's not really showing me it wants to go down. So we'll see. I do feel that this one will move tomorrow when we get China's retaliation or whatever that does come out. But again, it won't have the same effect that the euro dollar or the dollar yen has. I feel like those two will be much bigger movers than this pair. Looking at the pound New Zealand. So of the two New Zealand ones, I'll drag this actually over here. Actually, you know what? Let me drag the New Zealand there. Okay, I'm going to stay with this one, but I'm going to put it at the end. Okay, so the pound New Zealand. Okay, check out this 30-minute candle. Huge, right? 216 pips in 30 minutes. Gigantic trade. Okay, so interesting thing about this trade is obviously there was the short. Okay, it went all the way down. It grabbed. Okay. What did it do? It retraced all the way back up again, grabbed this area again, and then continued to push back down again. So literally, this one's been bouncing between levels. Not a bad position. Not a bad position to trade. Dropping this one. Now that we have this one set up, let's do this so we can make this one just like the other pairs. So daily, let's change this to 4-hour. We'll change this. Actually, this is backwards. Hold on. It's that one I want. Daily 4-hour, 30-minute. There we go. And again, we'll go to this 15-minute one to show it how it worked out. So in this case, there was the news. Okay, this one ended up kind of basing and going sideways. But what did it do? It came all the way down. It went all the way back up, and it came all the way back down again. Actually, that is not what happened. There you go. So spikes just straight down. Okay, this one did not give you the same entry signal. It started to move a little bit early. We can drop this one down to the 10-minute mark. But what we talk about is where the price is starting to hold. Okay, again, we hit this kind of level. We came and then price right here at about 810 is where price started to hold, but it wasn't on a level. Okay, this is where the science of this gets a little bit harder. And of these two, I like the New Zealand dollar better than the pound New Zealand. This one obviously moved a bit more, but I'd like to set up on the other one. I'll show you that one next. But this is where it held. For basically 10 minutes, it didn't do anything. It froze completely. These freezes are the telltale sign that orders are being put in because it did nothing. I mean, look, up until that time, it was moving. Over here, it was moving. Okay, this is right before news, right? It should be moving 20 minutes before news, and it didn't. So it held. And then what did it do? They started positioning orders, and they started driving price up again. So that was the telltale sign that this was, you were looking to take a short in this position. And again, it just launched and went straight to the downside. Okay. Of these two, I prefer this one, New Zealand dollar. Okay, New Zealand dollar. Switch this one across. Okay, you guys can see in this case what it did is it drove down. Again, the price was here. We knew that there were some buyers down in this area because it hit here, came up, and then failed to go lower. So again, that was an automatic trigger to us saying, hey, listen, if price gets down here again, this could be a good one. Right? Oh, it's 30-minute. Hold on, I got to change this back again. Let's go down to the 15-minute. And again, you guys can see there's the 45. Right here is the 30. And again, 8 right around here, the 8:10, right around the 6 o'clock mark, right? This 6:45. What did it do? It drove down. This one drove early though. Okay. Up, boom, and just launched. And again, this is what happened. It started to drive price down because people knew about it. And then magically, a half hour before the news, 45 minutes before the news, it's starting to hit the level. Okay. And again, did give a little bit of a pullback, but there's your confirmation. Okay. Your confirmation entry off the daily was your green, red, green. And what did it do? It triggered at 6:30, right before the news happened. Okay. So there was your trigger. And what did it do? It launched itself up about, I guess from the confirmation, again, I was already in. Even from the confirmation level, you're talking about 60 pips. Okay, so again, you wouldn't have wanted to take the additional risk if you didn't have to, but again, bouncing off of a daily level, that's where this is drawn, in an area where we already knew that we had people, right? That's what the trigger was on this one. Again, you guys can see even on the 4-hour, what did price do? Came up, it dropped down, it tagged it, and then launched all the way back up again, and it came. It did touch the green level. Okay, the green level was the bottom of this kind of this again target candle right behind this piece here. So I preferred this one because again, instead of kind of waiting for that candle, this was a much easier grab at the bottom. It was the last time price popped up higher. Again, we had a pierce of it, but we saw here that it was unable to go through. I figured we had a backstop right here as well as we had the backstop at this 2 wicks. This was a trigger point. It came down, it touched, it paused, gave me this candle, started to go green. Boom, you're in. There's your confirmation that you're in. Move stop loss to break even at that point. Okay, so you can't lose on the trade. News comes out, launch. Okay, so a couple more steps in that one. And again, if you didn't put your stop loss, and when you got the confirmation, if you didn't put your stop loss in, it wasn't the end of the world. You still would have only lost about 18 pips. Very small for the amount of risk that you could make on this one. But that's the way that you would manage this, just FYI. Okay, if you do catch something like this, and again, use the alerts. Once you get the trigger, what do? You deal with it, right? You have a green, red, green. You have a confirmation that occurs here, right? So what you could do is you could all of a sudden bring that stop loss from there and bring it all the way up. Now, again, this wouldn't be your stop loss, but you'd bring your stop loss to here. So what's the worst going to happen? News pops you out for nothing? Oh, well, in this case, again, it gave you the, kind of the foreshadow of what was going to happen, okay? So, oh God, the baby's screaming. So that's an easy way to manage these things. Again, of these two, I like that one better. Just personal preference. You may have liked the pound setup, this setup a little bit better. This is one that you would have had to, have a little bit more of a feeling for what was going on inside of this level when it started to pull back from that kind of stoppage in an area that really wasn't anything. Okay, again, if it turns for no reason, it's orders being established. And again, since that time, you guys can see it really hasn't done much. Okay. All right, let's jump over to dollar Swiss. So, dollar Swiss, I do expect there's going to be some movement tomorrow as the barbs kind of retaliate back and forth. Sorry, I'm trying to drink a bit of water here. I got popped in the jaw earlier today, so it hurts, and I took some Advil for it. And everyone has really bad stomachs with Advil, so I'm trying to drink as much water as I can. This guy straight down 4 days. I would love to say that I think this is a great buying area around here, that we're going to flip right now and we're going to turn and look, there's all these, sellers above there. But with everything that's going on in the news, it's kind of one of those things I just feel that there's going to be some backlash going back and forth. We call them a currency manipulator. They're going to have a response back for us that is probably equally as powerful. And then Twitter's going to happen. Okay? There will be a tweet somewhere in here that's going to make this thing funky. And obviously, this is a pair that anytime you mention war, missiles, invasion, anything like that, this pair is going to move. So I feel that there is going to be more movement in this pair as there's more of a flight to safety. Don't really know if this bottom section is going to be the holder. It was kind of a larger candle, so it wasn't even the best candle. And you can see it drove lower than this prior kind of low. So it's eating things up. I think we're clear. I mean, again, you guys can see we're clear down to at least 97, 94. See what this thing does. I have a feeling this is going to go a bit lower just because of everything else. Yeah, there's going to be a tweet. I mean, there's going to be a tweet, right? I mean, literally, it's going to be, every action has an equal and, opposite reaction. Well, guess what? We dropped the hammer with the currency manipulator. And again, it's not a Trump thing just for anybody out there. I mean, Obama also hinted at labeling them officially. And they have been. I mean, they have been forever. But he was a little bit not, the last guy wasn't as strong with he was more worried about relations, where this guy doesn't care about relations. So he was like, that's it, we're officially branding them. So, yeah. But it's definitely taken the whole trade war kind of to a new level. Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it plays out. Now, understand with this too, a lot of this is not real. Okay, this whole kind of trade war thing. It is a bunch of political, kind of positioning for both sides. Because again, their people are like, oh, these guys are the evil people, and we're positioning ourselves this way, and we're strong. But one kind of thing that nobody has mentioned yet, or I haven't heard it anyway, there are certain U.S. companies that Trump does not like, and those same companies do a lot of business in China. I'm not going to say the name. I'm just saying there are certain companies that Trump is not the biggest fan of, and those guys do a bunch of business in China. So if we start tacking things on to industries that would really hurt China, which just happens to be electronics, guess what? Some of those companies are also going to be hurt. No, not so much Amazon. You don't hear it is an A word, but it's not as much Amazon as you would think. Like I said, I think Amazon these days, I think we get just as much or as much from Mexico and Canada. And there's a lot of little countries that would build those little, little things that we need. But there's another A company that does a lot of stuff. Yeah, Josh got it. Yeah, that other A company does a lot of stuff, and Trump is not the biggest fan of the other A company because, they don't bring all their money back home and there's not taxes and he stood up to Trump a few times and you know how that goes for people when you stand up to Trump. You become like public enemy number one. So yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he's like, that's it, we're taxing all electronics that come back from that country, and Apple's like, oh God, where are we going to build iPhones at now? Because people were up in arms about, wait a second, you're going to tax Mexico for all auto imports? What's Ford going to do? Ford's going to shut down because all the trucks that are built there. But where do you think most of the iPhones are built? Or a lot of the iPhones are built. So, they've had a target forever. And yeah, so kind of interesting. Yeah. I agree. I think they should have been labeled a long time ago. I think we were too weak on them in the previous. And again, everybody has different opinions on this. It is what it is. We're not getting political here in the slightest bit, but I'm just saying the last administration was more worried about public relations, and I feel like things were a lot more calm under him. But I also feel that being that weak on somebody that was trying to take advantage of the world was also the wrong stance on there. Unfortunately, we're about the only economy that can actually do that labeling without being severely hurt. It is what it is. The euro wouldn't do it because again, they have their own problems right now with Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, those guys. So again, we were really the only ones to do it, and it is what it is. Again, there are times to be strong, there's times to be weak, and I totally understood why we were doing what we were doing before. But unfortunately, I feel that China is taking care of that. They've taken advantage of the situation for so long. And again, being a currency trader and them having fixed currency and we can't invest over there and we can't do all these things, it's not been an even playing field. So I'm happy that we did it. I think it's good, but I think it's going to make the markets crazy volatile. But I think that also means there's crazy amounts of money that we can all make. So I am happy about that because at the end of the day, I'm all about making money too. All right. So this guy, I'm not going to do too much analysis because I would be talking about, hey, listen, we're on the bottom 33%. We should be looking for longs. Everything's going to be good. But just with everything going on, I'm pretty, there's other opportunities out there that are better setups than us trying to force a long in this one, in my opinion. Okay. If you guys can find trades on it, more power to you. Love you guys. Do it. All right. So looking at dollar CAD. Okay. Dollar CAD this week. Let's see. Again, not much this week for the CAD. Again, Friday a little bit, the unemployment change. I think that's going to be the big mover of that morning. Core PPI, yeah, I think this is going to kind of come into a little bit, but I think we're going to get some movement in the CAD. So we can whether play, CAD yen, and again, we'll do more analysis on this one on Thursday. We've been inside of this upper range. It's kind of faked this out. It's kind of gone high. It's kind of gone low, but it's just really meandered sideways. Again, obviously in the last 4 hours, we've had all the drama with the U.S., so I'm not surprised that it went down, and we've had some dollar weakness. That's to be expected because everybody's preparing for it. But again, it's not moving. Had you gotten into a long at this point, whatever. If it's just there's no movement. Okay, not anywhere that we're inside of a trend. Okay, and again, not quite sideways movement because of this green. There was a bit of a gap. It closed here and then opened. So bit of a gap, obviously coming through the weekend, and that's kind of what messed up the sideways movement. But we are bouncing. We are kind of turning back down again. At this point with this pair as well. And again, you guys can see we've kind of spent a lot of time here. We're talking really since Wednesday of last week. We've really been kind of just in this little zone. It's been a lot more insulated. We had good CAD numbers, and I'd like to see that continue through. I think if we get some good CAD numbers later in the week, I think that will give us something, tradable. The one thing I don't like about this, and again, I was very big on this racetrack to the top side. I thought we would get a little bit more movement, and this candle here, I thought we were going to get something good, but we just didn't. And now we're starting to retrace back down into this kind of this 131.18 area. It's starting to get a little wicky for me. Okay, you guys will see over here. It was starting to get very, very wicky. We had some nice movement, this was a nice kind of solid movement, right? Solid base, solid movement, retest, sideways, kind of giving you those, the indication it wants to drop really strong. this one's not bad, right? And we've kind of seen it bounce here much, but now it's kind of just flatlined. And again, I feel like a lot of the potential of this one has been sucked out. And again, I really did like this kind of top side. I really wanted this thing to retrace back up into the 133 area. But we mentioned before, if we get anything down here, again, this could be going back down to the 130 area. So, this looks like it's starting to become the line in the sand. Again, we have, three different kind of peaks here, but the peaks are all starting to go lower, and we're starting to see lower lows. So this is a confirmation that, we are running into a trend change of some sort. So we'll see how far it can actually carry us. Now, going into dollar yen. Actually, you know what? Let me go to, let's go over here first. We're going to go to CAD yen first to see what kind of setup we have on the side. Take this guy out. All right, so this guy bounced off this bottom kind of daily level that we had here. And again, that was us going in on, basically the Sunday candle down. We hit and kind of, bounced back up again. That's where we are right now. So this is another situation where it's already kind of moved too much for us to get on any type of a long. It did drive pretty deep into the zone. So this may have been one we may have gotten pulled out on just the wick. Again, it did do some basing, right? On Monday, it did pop, came lower, and then kind of launched itself. But again, this is news that happened in the last hour or so. All right. We are in an area of basing. Some people may say, hey, wait a second, look, there's a really strong, look at this base right here, right? Look at this base. Not really the biggest fan of the base, just because what it did is it bounced off of a zone. Okay, because it bounced off of the zone below. Again, this was a pretty strong daily. Came very strong in, spent one candle, and then launched itself up. Not my favorite candle right now. So with this one, again, like I said, later in the week is when I think we're going to get the most movement out of this one. I want to see what it's able to establish. I don't really love, really the first time, we got a little bit of a pop here, and that's kind of where we're at right now. But again, if we were looking for a downtrend setup, we have an anchor break to the top side right now. So yes, we're going long, but we're in an area of basing here. We have another area of basing right above it. A lot of conflicting signals on this one. Okay, so I'm going to hold this one till later in the week. Again, I'm not going to stretch too far into these kind of pairs. CAD Swiss. Again, CAD Swiss is probably going to get really low in volatility, especially if the dollar, dollar CAD and CAD yen is kind of drying up. Yeah, kind of the same thing. See, it's pulling back again. Again, it did go lower. Okay, and again, remember we talked about, guys, where are these traps at? Okay, here's another example. Oh no, look. Hold on, let me change this color just so you guys can follow this one. I'll make this dark purple. We'll make it those things. Oh, look, support and resistance. Here is the bottom of a recent low. I am going to short it if it goes below the line. Bam. What did you do? You shorted it when it went below the line. And where did you put your stop loss? On the other side, right? At the last pivot. Well, there was the last pivot. What did it do? It just broke above it. Okay? That is why, again, we drove through, we hit it, boom, it goes through. Everybody in the world knows that that's a support and resistance trade right there. So that's why you need to be a little bit careful about setting these things up, right? Once it gets that far down, it's too long. It's too late, right? And again, even the way this zone formed, I would even say this is a super explosive zone. And again, we knew that there was something sitting down here at the bottom. As soon as it goes below, everybody's like, yep, short. Okay, again, how many pairs? This is multiple pairs today that we've talked about this. It has gone just below prior lows. And what happened? Man, they're just eating the support and resistance traders up. All right? Again, don't see necessarily anything I love. This isn't a bad little zone right here. This kind of drop, this kind of like doji going sideways, right? This little kind of pause. Not a bad little area. On the lower time frame, that would be, let's see. Yeah, it's not bad. We've already seen it kind of base sideways come down, pop. So that's not a bad area for something kind of on the smaller time frame. You got the single wick here. That's not bad either, too, because it came down. Nice retracement up off of that zone, and that was a pretty explosive push down. So that's not actually even bad either. That's probably sitting in this area. But again, for me on this one, I'd be looking at the 4 hour. I wouldn't be spending a lot of time on the 30-minute. It just moves a little bit too slow. All right. Last but not least, let's go over to the dollar yen. Bam. All right, so you guys remember how we had all those levels here that were picked as profit targets? They're all gone because price went all the way back down again, right? They were all up in here, right? This thing just won't stop. Okay, It's just going. I'll remove a lot of this just to clean the charts up. But remember, we had all these things set. I'm like, we had a level here, boom. We had a level here that needed a break, boom. We had another level here that we had a trigger, boom, that one hit. Down here was another one, boom, and hit that one. So, I mean, it's literally hit everything on the way down. Okay, there was this little piece. I don't even know where that candle is. Oh, it's part of this piece right here. This was one entry too that we were able to get into if you were able to catch it. Okay, like I said, this was a pipette trade on this little spike up to the downside. Now, we did have some basing sideways. We did pop and we did kind of push back up again, but it hasn't quite reached it. Okay, it got stuck right here. Okay, and I'll draw this across. Okay, this is a zone. Again, a little bit frustrating. Okay, I didn't like this zone too much because the red candle actually popped higher. Okay, on the 10-minute, I think it looked better. You guys see the basing here? It went up and it grabbed this kind of wick over wick on the 10-minute. But the fact that it went that high, I was a little bit nervous about this one holding. And again, we got one kind of push through and kind of came back down again, formed a new low, and we're sitting in there again right now. Okay, so it has not pulled back whatsoever until right now. Okay, it is a downtrend setup on the daily. Okay, but on the 4-hour, you guys can see, yes, it was green. We had a downtrend setup, right? Because again, go across. Okay, where do we hit first? We hit a candle here. There's nothing that we're able to hit here, but it is now giving us an anchor break. Okay, so the fact that it is into that anchor break makes me slightly cautious. So this would be one of those times that you could potentially put an out of the money, kind of an out of the money binary or something small. The risk level in this one is about 13 pips. To the downside, back to the origin of the move, you're talking about 64. So it's a 13 for 65. Not a horrible setup, kind of where we are right now. We are somewhat at entry. 65 to the downside. Again, that is three spreads apart, or I'm sorry, three strike price differentials that you can take in Nadex. Okay, that may not be far enough out. We'll see. I'd like it better if it was pulling back into this zone versus this one. But again, this one has already shown us that there's some sellers there, and it's already starting to push down again. So it may be something that even if we drop down, look on like a 5-minute, if you're looking for something to trade tonight. Haven't quite had that red, green, red. We had a red, right? But then we had a green that went higher. Then we had a red. Actually, we do. In 2 minutes, we would actually have an entry because we'd have a red. This green did not go as high, and there's your red. So you could potentially get into it early. You guys can see there'll be a little bit of a kick here, maybe a little bit of a kick here, and obviously this bottom section, you may want to bring it up just slightly underneath. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could have moved. I guess we could have. I mean, if we wanted to go up to there, you could have taken that down on the 5-minute. Again, you would have, if you're looking for confirmation entry, you'd be about in the same area, okay? And that would have taken your risk to take you into about 8. Yeah, you'd have had about an 8 pip risk on that one. And let's see. You'd have about an 8 pip risk and still about 72 in the other direction. So almost, just about a 9-to-1, right? Right now, you'd be currently up. You'd be up about 15 on there right now. Okay. So again, I wouldn't be moving my stop off yet, but I'd be pretty close to it. All right. So again, that's a smaller time frame trade at night. Something that's a potential in there. Again, will it move all the way back down again? We'll see. I mean, it should be, but I'd be trailing my stop loss all the way down or using out of the money, and then again take it out early. If you get something pretty cheap in there, go ahead and do it. All right. Again, that's dropping it down to the 5-minute. So, if we did a 30-minute, again, that's where you run into the anchor break to the top side. We were in a downtrend setup, but then we're in the anchor break. Okay, but again, bounce it off a zone. All right. Yeah, it's kind of what you're looking for right now. All right, so we'll see what it does. I mean, like I said, it's funny. Where this arrow is pointing, there is a wick over wick. So again, you got to be cautious about halfway through. But I mean, by the time you get to that area, you're already up, you're like 3.5 to 1. So, all right. All right, guys, that's it. That was all the pairs we blew through tonight. Actually, we did it right at 10 o'clock, and that wasn't bad. So we added some extra pairs and talked about some things. So With that being said, if you have any questions, guys, post them on Discord. If you guys can, make sure you go over and follow us on YouTube or like us, like the videos on YouTube. It will help us get to where we can have the customized link to make it easier to dial you guys in. And vice versa, if you guys are over on YouTube, please go over to Twitch and make sure that you hit follow on that page. Again, the more followers we get over there, it helps us also with kind of getting the word out. All right, guys, that is it. I got nothing else for you guys tonight. Anything else, post it inside of Discord, and I will catch you guys in the morning. Take care.